The Babe led the Bombers to their first World Championship in 1923.
Strike three, a no-hitter, a perfect game for John Lawson.
Reggie Jackson hit his third home run of the game.
Hayes makes the catch. The Yankees win.
The Yankees are back on top. World champions for the 27th time.
The Yankees, who obviously were a big team in 1926 and failed to get it done, had won in 1927 by sweeping the Pirates. They were looking for similar results this year in 1928 against the Cards. Going down to the end of the season, though, they were limping at the end of the year. There were several important injuries to the club. Herb Pennock, one of their best pitchers, had a sore arm and would miss the entire series. Earl Combs had a broken finger and would make only relief appearances in the series. Tony Lazzeri had a sore arm also, and so he was having trouble throwing out players from second base. And in addition, Babe Ruth had a sore ankle. This is why many people predicted that the Cardinals would win in that series.
Despite the injuries down the stretch, the Yankees managed to eke out the American League pennant by just 2.5 games, their third consecutive pennant. 5 players finished the season with a batting average over 300, and the Iron Horse Lou Gehrig led the way with a .374 clip at the plate. He and Babe Ruth each knocked in 142 runs to tie for the Major League lead. The Babe's 163 runs scored still ranks second most in franchise history, 14 behind his own record set in 1921. The pitching staff dominated as well. The top 3 starters combined for 64 victories, while Herb Pennock led the way with a 2.56 ERA. Tom Zachary, who made just 7 appearances for the Yankees after being selected off waivers in August, would play a large role in the Fall Classic.
The 1928 World Series matched the Yankees against the St. Louis Cardinals for the second time in 3 years. But really, the World Series that year can be summed up in 2 names, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. Baseball's hardest-hitting duo led the Yankees to their 3rd World Series championship in October of 1928.
Starting off in Game 1, you had sort of a rematch from the 1926 series in which Wade Hoyt faced Bill Sherdell. Wade Hoyt ended up throwing a great game. The Yankees win 4-1, kind of making people think, well, maybe we should rethink what's going to happen in this series.
Wade Hoyt went the distance, pitching a complete game, allowing just 1 earned run and 3 hits. Ruth and Gehrig combined for 5 hits, while Bob Musial hit a 2-run home run in the 4th inning. The Yankee Stadium crowd of over 61,000 saw the Bombers take a 1-0 series lead.
So the big moment in the series comes in Game 2 when Grover Cleveland Alexander takes the mound. He defeated the Yankees pretty much single-handedly in the 1926 World Series. So going into this game, being down a game to the Yankees already, it was important that the Cardinals get off to a good start. So Alexander took the mound in Game 2, and he had a very rough start. He ended up giving up 9 earned runs in the game, spearheaded by a Lou Gehrig 3-run home run in the 1st inning.
Babe Ruth also added 2 hits as the Yankees went on to win Game 2 by a score of 9-3. George Pipgrass struck out 8, allowing just 2 runs en route to a complete game victory. The Yankees would march to St. Louis, up 2-0.
So Game 3, you see Lou Gehrig come out into the 1st inning, and he ends up hitting a 2-run home run. He ends up hitting 2 home runs in that game, and one of those Gehrig home runs actually was an inside-the-park home run. Bob Musial also steals home in the 6th inning, and the Yankees win 7-3. So the game had all sorts of different aspects to it that you don't normally see in a World Series game.
In addition, Tom Zachary threw the 3rd straight complete game for the Bronx Bombers as the Yankees took a commanding 3-0 series lead.
In one of the great legendary, but not apocryphal stories in World Series history, Babe Ruth went to the hospital to visit a sick St. Louis kid named Johnny Sylvester and promised the boy that he'd hit him a home run, maybe 2. Of course, he went on to hit 3.
Which is the 2nd time that's ever happened in the World Series. First time was 2 years earlier in 1926 against the same Cardinals when Babe Ruth had a 3-home run game. So here in Game 4, the same thing occurs. He hits one early in the game, then in the 7th inning.
Babe Ruth stepped up to the plate and was quick pitched by Sherdell of the St. Louis Cards. But that quick pitch was ruled illegal prior to the series. So after considering that he thought he struck him out, had to pitch to him again. But the Babe commented that if you put another one right here, I'll hit it out for you. And with those words, they were prophetic in that the next pitch did go out of the ballpark.
Gehrig up next, hits his home run. So in this game, it ends up being another 7-3 victory, and the Yankees triumph over the Cardinals.
The Yankees completed the sweep that day at Sportsman's Park, winning back-to-back championships and their third in franchise history. In the Game 4 victory, Waite Hoyt continued the trend of complete games for Yankees starters, as he allowed just 2 earned runs in the clinching contest.
The story of the series in 1928 was by far Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. The numbers they put up pretty much defy description. When you think about what 2 people alone did to an opposing team, it's hard to find any match in the annals of baseball history.
Lou Gehrig was the true standout of the World Series, where he recorded 4 home runs, drove in 9 runs, and had a .545 batting average in only 4 games.
Babe Ruth himself batted .625 in the series. He had 10 hits in 17 plate appearances, and he scored 9 runs in 17 plate appearances. Absolutely mammoth numbers.
To say Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig carried the team's offense during the 1928 World Series would be an understatement. While the duo contributed to over half of the Yankees' offense, they also outscored the entire Cardinals squad. Gehrig's OPS of .243 during the 1928 Fall Classic, which measures on-base percentage plus slugging percentage, is the highest ever in World Series history, while Babe Ruth's .022 OPS ranks 4th.
But it was not the batters. It was not Gehrig's batting .545 and Ruth hitting .625. It was the complete shutdown of the St. Louis Cardinals by a Yankee staff that no one thinks of as having great starters.
The unsung heroes of the World Series that year were the Yankees' starting pitchers. Manager Miller Huggins only used 3 pitchers during the entire World Series, all of whom pitched complete games. Waite Hoyt pitched 2 complete games, where George Pipgrass and Tom Zachary had 1 complete game apiece.
It was kind of ironic, as Zachary was pitching for Washington the prior year in 1927, and he gave up Babe Ruth's 60th home run in the 1927 campaign, which was the new single-season record. This year, obviously, I think a little bit happier to be a teammate of Babe Ruth and bring home a World Series championship.
The 1928 World Series victory would be the last for Yankees manager Miller Huggins. He won 6 American League pennants and 3 World Series titles.
He was the architect of these championship teams, at least from the dugout bench, in the decade of the 1920s.
But unfortunately, he would fall ill and pass away in September of 1929. While the Yankees would mourn his loss, they would find a new leader that would lead them back to the promised land, over and over and over again.